All right. What's going on, guys? Happy Sunday morning. I thought it would be cool to do a live edit of a house that I actually got done shooting yesterday for an agent. I thought I would take you sort of through sort of a live edit, like my post process workflow. Some people have asked me to do like some more real estate stuff. So I figured, what the heck? Now is a perfect time to go ahead and do that. And this house was actually perfect to do this on. So I am going to do just that. But before that, let me go ahead and make sure that this is absolutely definitely live before I maximize the screen. And also, I'm going to open up the chat. Mute that. Let me open up the chat here, actually. I'll pop this out. All right, cool. So that way I can see the chat as I edit. All right, let's go ahead and expand this. Hopefully you guys can see all this stuff that's going on. All right, cool deal. So somebody says we're live. Let's rock. All right, so today I'm just going to go ahead and walk you through sort of my post-process edit. I've already started this video because I was like, you know what? This may be a good house to work on and show you sort of how I put together a storyline essentially after I shoot a house. So this was a house that we shot yesterday for an agent, and it was a pretty nice house. I'll just play this through here. So this was a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, home with a pool. Gorgeous house, really. Now, I've got some of the edits done, but I have not done any color correction. Haven't done any of the post stabilization yet. I'm still sort of piecing together the story yet. So this is as far as I've gotten so far. I've scored the music with Soundstripe, and this is where I'm at. Okay, so that's how far I've gotten so far before I've actually decided to go live. I was going to make this into a video, but I think doing it live would be cool too. So that way I can interact real time. So right now I'm in the master bedroom and I'm just working through, do I underexpose like that? It just depends. Actually, I'm overexposing by one stop on most of these clips, but I do a lot of post work. So I really don't worry about nailing the exposure 100% because once I drop a LUT on all this footage, I'm probably going to have to pull up the exposure anyhow. So it's just personal preference. My biggest deal is I like windows to be seen through. I don't want overexposed windows. That's like one of my pet peeves when I'm doing a home. All right, so now I'm going to move into the bathroom here, and we're starting right here. And sort of with this bathroom, there's a mirror right here, so it's a little harder to really get a good open shot. So I try to pull like a reveal shot. So I'll put this on the in, and I'll stop it right there. I could have gone further. I find that sometimes I go like maybe a little too far with my shots. And if I wanted to, I could slow this down. I did shoot this in 1080p 60. I'm working in a 24 frame timeline. Morning, Chris. So I'm going to go and just slowing it enough. I'm okay with leaving that door in the clip here. And I'm matching everything up to, I'm expanding this audio track, but I'm matching everything up to these little peaks, or trying to match it up to the best of my ability. And we'll expand this there a little bit. So that, for me, that helps to edit out a bit, is when you match these peaks. And it all depends on what song you get. I am constantly changing songs. I never keep them the same. All right, so we've got that down. The next was this clip right here. But for me, I may actually leave this one to the end and focus on the shower. And I was really messing around with this hard, trying to find the right shot. And I think it's right here. It wasn't perfect. And I probably don't even have to go up that high, actually. I can just go right there. And I'll probably start it like there as well. So because I'm shooting in 60 frames per second, I can actually slow this down a little bit more. So we'll say 60%. And that was still almost too fast. So I'll probably have to take a look at this clip and evaluate it a little more. That was almost too fast. So 50, let's see what 50 does. Stop it right about there. All right, so that'll work for that clip. I'm going to make that the out. And then pull it right about there. So that's the end. And this clip, I think, is moving too fast, or too slow, I should say. So we'll say 120. And it's just all feel. And we'll make it go backwards to here. That looks good. All right, let me get to the chat here. Am I underslung for that shot? I am not underslung. Probably being underslung would make that a little bit easier doing those pull-up shots. But no, I'm actually squatting down and just going up sometimes as slow as I possibly can. Yeah, this is all 100% on the gimbal for interior shots. And I'll add post stabilization to certain shots. It just depends on like what I see when I get back to post. I used to shoot all the interior in 4K, but then I realized I was like, man, I'm just creating more work for myself because the MLS and Facebook, they don't see any of this in 4K. So it never really mattered anymore. So yeah, but all of it's underslung, or all of it's on a gimbal, and all of this is 1080p 60. So the only thing I've done with all this footage is I've set the white balance to auto. And with the A6400, it does let you lock the white balance. So when I go to certain rooms, I'll find like the whitest object in the room, point it towards it, let it sit for a second, lock the white balance before I move to another room. Or sometimes what I'll do is I'll keyframe white balance into shots, like the white balance in here. Once I get ready to do color correction, all that the yellow will be gone. But I'll just wait till the end to do color correction. Yeah, but if you downscale, you don't get 1080p 60, and I rather have 1080p 60 in a quicker workflow. No agents ever said, "Wow, you didn't shoot this in 4K." Never. I've yet to have an agent say that to me. Which, if the first time that happens, will be the first time it happens. So for this shot here, this is their game room. Just trying to find like the perfect spot to go with it. So I'm sort of okay with that right there. And we've got like 2 more bedrooms to wrap up on this, and then I can move to outside. And the really tiny bathroom. It's just a little bit of bobble right there. If I can smooth that out, I think. So put that at 80%. Actually, that clip came out a little longer than I wanted it to. I use a combination of lenses. I use a Laowa 9mm f2.8, and then I'm also using a 12mm or 12mm Rokinon lens. So 12 millimeter Rokinon lens was like $260, and I probably use that 90% of the time on most all of my shoots. The Laowa lens, I like that lens, but I think that it has too much vignette in. At least I see. Yeah, the Laowa 0D, but I think it has too much vignette in around the sides. Like I find myself having to do a lot of post cleanup on that, which I don't know. I mean, it's really wide. It bails me out in super tiny houses, but I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that distortion that it provides. Or not the distortion, but the vignette, and I should say. It's noticeable. I notice it. I've never had anybody like watch a video and notice it, but I notice it, so it bothers me. Which is a shame because it's a great lens, but may just be because of the f2.8. But if you stop down to like f4, it's less noticeable, but then it defeats the purpose. Yeah, the 12 millimeter is definitely, for me, is the way to go. You just have to make sure that if you get any one of those lenses, is that you put a filter on there, a UV filter, because if you don't have a UV filter on there and you accidentally touch the lens or a piece of dust hits the lens, you're going to get spots in your video. And I mean, I've done that countless times. I've gotten spots just because I didn't wipe the lens down. So I'm forever wiping lenses down. So that's the only thing I would say is any of these wide angle lenses for APS-C, wipe them down over and over. Yeah, Parker Walbeck uses the Laowa 15 millimeter 0D for full frame. He loves it. It works great. That one doesn't have quite as much vignette in. And if it does, he's doing a great job in post cleaning it up. That's for sure. So for this shot here, I'm just going to change up the transition a little bit. Come like that. Actually, I want to slow that down to 70. Okay. So now at this point, the interior of the house is done. So all of my interior shots are all complete. Now I can move outside. So outside was sort of tricky because trying to expose for the view and then trying to expose for the outside, you know, for the pool area was tough. But I know this shot looks really dark right now. When we're all done, it's going to be nice and bright and look pretty stellar. So I will let this shot roll for what it is because we'll fix this in a little bit. All right, so got that shot set there. Let's take a look at this shot. This is the pool shot. So for this one, I am underslung. And I just want to make sure I can't see my shadow. You can see off to the left-hand side. You can see like there's a little bit of shadow of where I was walking, so I didn't want that in the shot. So we'll play this back here. We'll have to smooth that out in post. All right, so now at this point, what I would do is I would grab a drone shot. Something like that. And you can see we have those peaks. And typically what I'll do is I'll cut down these shots. So I'll start something like this. add, this is like the only times I'll ever add speed ramps to any of my clips. I don't really like doing speed ramps, but I'll do one here, like probably something like right about there. Probably should move my keyboard forward a little bit. All right, something like that. Put a marker. May trim this down entirely. All right, so we've got that shot in, and now I would go back towards the backyard. So I've got a couple of exterior shots I'm actually searching for. There it is. Not really happy with that one. That's 39, 38. I think, is it 39? Yeah, I think it's 39 I liked. There it is. I'll have to add stabilization to that clip. And I'll add a transition to that. We can make that look a little bit less. Can we? I can fade it. I think I'll add a fade to that, so that way it goes from one side to the other. It was about, almost about noon, about 11:30, which is probably the best time to shoot a house because the sun's directly overhead. I'm gonna fix that clip up in post, speed it up a little bit too. Because it was a little harsh of a transition, so I'll wait to speed all that up and clean it. But this just gives me sort of a baseline of where I want all the clips. And now I'm sort of getting to the point where, all right, we've got, most everything that we need here. So now let's just find the rest of the DJI clips, which I don't know if I was actually recording when I shot this neighborhood clip. Was it this one? Yeah, I think it was. Where was that clip? Not really happy with that clip, so I probably won't use it. Let's see. I just need a good close-in shot. You know what? I sort of like that as a closer. As long as there's no traffic, nobody would know. Let's see. Which drones did I shoot this with? This was Mavic 2 Pro 1080p 60 frames per second. That's what that one was. So I'm going to come back to that clip. I'm going to think about that ending clip a little bit more just because I'm not totally satisfied with that. Let's do an adjustment layer. Not 100% happy with that ending clip. I should have thought about that a little bit more, but that's all right. So let's trim these up here because the exterior shots I try to lump together. I use a LUT called the Lehman LUT. I'm shooting in HLG. That's why it's sort of flat. It's not really flat, but looks a little soft, but that's HLG for you. What I'll do is I'll put an input LUT in here. Wait for this to go. Go to my LUTs folder. And I'm going to use Lehman LUT Pro HLG for Rec 709. So you'll sort of see here on, off. That's the Lehman LUT Pro. And that changes it quite a bit, but it really keeps the colors in check. And then it's just sort of cleaning up all the shots a little bit, just making it flow a little bit more. I think the white balance is good. May just want to bump up the exposure a little bit, take the highlights up, and add a little bit of contrast into that. And call that done. And then I'll do the same thing. What I'll do is I'll just drag this clip over to keep it even, just to see what it's going to look like. Yeah, that looks pretty good, actually. All right, cool. Now that, because these two clips are basically done, I will nest them. I may just come over and add a layer of sharpening, but that I can wait. I try to work clip by clip too. Some people like to do certain things, but I like to take it clip by clip. A little bit of warp stabilizer. And I am going to only take that down to maybe 3% on both of those. I don't think 3% is enough to be noticeable. There. So 3%, let that calculate and render through. So that's rendered through. So let me watch that back. Perfect. All right. So now we're in the interior. And I'll start with this clip here because we got to white balance this clip here. So white balance, find a white part of the wall. This trim is white. And right here is white. So that's way too cool. So I can try to just balance it off the light. No, nothing there. Nothing sticking. Door is white. It's too cool. And there's way too much maroon. I just want to take a little bit out, but not really take it all out. But I also don't want a green tint to it. So that's before, that's after. And I can still add a little bit more warmth to it. It's before, that's after, and that for me is better. All right, so that looks good there. And now I'm going to just simply drag that over. Now, one thing to note with this particular LUT that I'm using, that it will require you to overexpose. So sometimes I'll have to adjust the exposure clip by clip. So for this one here, I may have to adjust some shots. Like I feel it's a little bit too dark, but the highlights are overpowering the clip. So I just will sort of do it by feel. Contrast, interiors, I'm using 20 on the contrast. Yeah, DaVinci is definitely a lot better. I'm so used to Premiere Pro that I don't know if I can make the switch. All right, so this one here, I'm going to cut this clip here because this was a singular clip. I think this is pretty good. I'm going to add a little bit of warmth to that one. Pull back the highlights. Give it a little contrast, and I think I'll call that one done. $20 on contrast. There we go. And then, of course, you know, because it's Premiere, after so many effects, you have to sit there and render it all out, which sort of sucks. This is the biggest thing about Premiere Pro, is that there's no background rendering. I wish they fixed that because it drives me nuts. And this is like a really beefy rig, and I still have to render it out on a 1080p timeline. Just a downfall. But once you get involved with a workflow, it's hard to get away from it, which sort of sucks. Yeah, I know. I've got so many plugins for Premiere Pro that it would just be so hard for me to switch. So hard for me to switch. And it would I think it would take me more time. I'm sure if I sat down and like forced myself to use DaVinci Resolve, I probably could learn it very quickly, but I just don't know if I would be effective with it. That's my biggest thing, is just being efficient. Like I can be efficient in Premiere Pro because I know where everything's at. But once things start going sideways, then not so much. Yeah, right now I'm using the newest Ryzen 3700X, and it tears through the footage pretty quickly. Haven't really had any complaints with it. Yeah, see, I like how I can come into post and just make the the exposures, you know, whatever I want them to be. I mean, you can do that with Premiere or with DaVinci to an extent from what I've seen. All right, so let me look over these clips now. Where did I leave off here? All right, so I left off right here. In this bathroom, white balance is trashed. So I need to just add a little bit more warmth to that. That was easy enough. All right, so I do want to go ahead and add some warp stabilizer to this now because I want to see how that clip's going to look. Yeah, and I forgot I got to nest that. All right, so let's add, I'm going to start off with 5% on that bathroom. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Like everybody's comfortable with their own NLEs. Some people love Final Cut Pro, and Final Cut Pro is really efficient. I'm just not, you know, I'm not comfortable with it like I used to be. These clips here, I feel like I'm constantly wanting to add. Whoops. Add a little bit more. Where is it nested? I need to program a shortcut for nesting. Add 2% to that one. I think this one too, I can add a little bit of stabilizer just to take that little, felt like there was just a little bit too much rock in that clip. Let's see. I am using the 3700X. I had the Ryzen 5 3600 or 2600X. That was last year's processor, Ryzen 5 2600X. I actually gave it away to another YouTuber, El Jefe Reviews. I gave it to him. He built a streaming PC out of it. All right, so now here's a clip where it's like really underexposed in here. It doesn't look very good. It's sort of gloomy. So let's start off with the color. I can bump the exposure up, which I love. I can just change the exposure here. Not that clip, this clip. I don't want to bring it up too much though, but we will take the highlights down. And I'll bring the shadows up. And bring the blacks down. And like anywhere where I feel like there's noise, I just clean it with Neat Video and Bob's your uncle. All right, so like this clip here, no stabilization needed. Same thing for this one. And what I'll do is to keep everything matching, I'm just going to drag and see what it looks like if I did that. See, and that's perfect. It looks like a seamless. I think that works just fine. I have no problem with that. All right, so let's start off like this clip. Here's a clip where the white balance is really bad, like because the lights are just, you know, those incandescent bulbs. So this one's a tough spot. I'm also right on the tree, which is probably not a good idea, especially using auto white balance. But what I'll do is I'll touch these bulbs and you can see just by hitting the bulb, I didn't hit the white part because if I hit the white part of the room, I think it's going to make it too cool. And I'm actually okay with this white balance here. I may warm it up just a little bit. I tend to lean towards the warmer look. So that looks really good. I may also just brighten it up just a little bit. Just a little bit, and then pull those highlights down just a tad, and then add a little bit of contrast into this scene. I'm pretty okay with that right there. Maybe pull the shadows up a little bit and then pull the blacks down. All right, so that looks pretty good actually. can't white balance to the outside. You either have to blow out the windows in a scene like this, or roll with it. But the idea is you want to try to keep, keep it from this like sort of piss yellow. Like right here, this is basically white. That looks fine. It's sort of hard, like with a scene like this, unless if I was shooting in log footage, that would be the only time that I think I would be able to nail it. And then for that, I would set it to like a 5,000 Kelvin. I think that's a good balance, but it just also depends on the house. Like sometimes some of these houses have really, really bad light in. I got lucky with this house. They had great light in throughout the entire house and it wasn't a big deal. But sometimes I go through houses and it's just really, really bad light in all the way across the board. And there's nothing you can do. So you got to sort of strike a balance between two evils. Like, do you worry about the outside or do you worry about the inside? And the rule of thumb is when you're doing real estate video, you're always going to worry about the inside versus what you can see through the window. But again, log footage helps. I stopped shooting in S-Log in houses probably 3.5 months ago, just because it was so much work and I was doing so many videos per week that I just didn't feel like it was worth. I wasn't getting any more. And with HLG on the Sony cameras, you get really nice, super soft highlight roll off. Like I feel like the highlights are really soft and it looks super nice. As to where S-Log, sometimes you'd get really, really harsh roll off and it just would get a lot of grain. I don't really get any grain in any of these shots for HLG. I get good dynamic range, really nice color reproduction with these LUTs, and it works so well. HLG is just a beast. I would recommend shooting HLG anytime. You can even look at some of the light fixtures, sort of the way the light's rolling off the fixtures. It seems like almost soft. It's nice. I think it's more pleasing. All right, so that clip, we'll call that done. Here's another clip. Like for this one here, what I'll do, same thing, is I just grab my adjustment layer from before and drag it over because the scene didn't change too much. So this is how you save yourself time. There's nothing you can do about the yellow here, the yellow here. You can only, cameras are only going to be so good. And honestly, that for me is perfect. I'm happy with that. All right, so same thing here. We can probably get away with dragging this white balance over. I bet you the white balance would be fine dragging over from the living room. And I mean, it's got a little bit too much maroon in there. I don't know if you see it. So I can just tweak that a little bit. Just pull that back a tad. Not too much, but I also want to warm it up a little bit more there. There we go. So that looks good. Pretty good. And we'll drag that over and see what it looks like. I want the kitchen to be a little bit brighter because I think kitchens should always be nice and bright. And then I'll just take down these highlights a little bit more. Like that. This one should be brighter too. But I want the highlights down. There we go. I think that's fine. Yeah, you got that's and you know what, Gerald? That's exactly it. Like the reality is this is not $1 million listing. If this was $1 million listing and I was getting paid like crazy money, and the listing, like a lot of times with those listings, there's more prep work and they don't go live for a while. I would have more time to where I can say, okay, I could spend a lot of time with this, but this is not $1 million listing. So the reality is it's going to go out on social media. It's going to go out on the MLS. And this house will probably last. Honestly, the way the real estate agency is, the real estate game is here, this house will last probably about a week. If I had to guess, these agents are super aggressive and nothing they ever have ever sits on the market for more than a week. It's crazy. Super talented couple. So pulling over the white balance from here, just sort of probably will pull back a little bit on this. Maybe too cool. I'll probably pull back a little bit more. No, I'm not really happy with that. Actually, in actuality, I may. Oof, no. I'm going to sort of have to probably bump up the shadows a little bit to compensate, and then add a little bit more contrast to this shot. Pull it down just a little bit. There. I think I'm okay with that. There we go. That's about it. Yeah, agents, they want everything fast. All right, so now we're into the bedroom. Same thing. I try to group these two together. And actually what I'll do is I'll cut this just in case it's a little different, but here we go. So let's start off with the light first, nothing on the light. And I think this one's probably one of those rooms where it's just like, okay, let's adjust things subtly, bring the highlights down a little bit. We'll bring the shadows up, but then I got to compensate by bringing the blacks down. There we go. And I want to add a little bit more warmth into the room. Like sort of like that. Add a little contrast. And I can adjust my blacks a little bit more. And I'm okay with that. I don't think that it's underexposed now. It's pretty decent. Yeah, I can leave it up for you guys for a bit. I've not been leaving streams up, but I will leave this stream up for you guys. So if you have questions or whatever afterwards. So yeah. All right, let's go ahead and delete this one here, that adjustment layer, and I'm just going to drag it over. So move in. And I think that came out pretty good, actually. I think it's a good transition between the two. The colors match. So color match across the board. So that looks good. So now we're into the bathroom. And I'll start off with the opening shot for the bathroom first. Now, the bathrooms are usually pretty easy. I think this white balance is dead on. I just need to make it a little bit brighter and then pull back these highlights a little bit because the highlights are coming in because the sun is like, it's just crusting. I think when I shot this, it was, I can see the clock. It's like 11 something, it says. So we'll bring this down, add a little bit of contrast in here. That's okay. And just make this a little bit brighter. But I think the white balance is perfect in the bathroom. I love certain bathrooms. You always get great white balance. And with the sun coming in, you really don't have to worry about the light. You know your white balance is going to be right. So this shot came out a little too cool. So we'll just slide this over. And it just added some subtle warmth. So that was pretty good right there. We'll slide this one over now. And come over to the right. So that's pretty good. Now, if I was not in a rush, I probably would have brought a light to light this area here. So this would match the photos, because in my photos, this is not like that. So I'm going to just drag the highlights down a little bit, but I think that's fine. Yeah, I'm based out of Tampa, man. Yep. All right. So this one here before, I have to nest this sequence because if you remember, it got a little squirrely on me. So we'll go ahead and nest that. Add some warp stabilizer. And for that one, I'm going to start with 5%. I know some people are like, oh my God, 5%, but I think that's going to be enough just to control this. Yeah, and it did. So it was moving a little fast, but there's really nothing interesting really happening there. All right, so we're moving on. Now we're almost through with all the color corrections. All right, so let's go back to color. And I usually just hit the light, but nothing works there. So I'll find something white in the room. Nothing. Come on, give me something here. This carpet looks, oof, nope. Sometimes you just hit something. It's just like, no. That gave me too much warmth now. All right, so we'll have to sort of eye this one up a little bit. So I'm going to pull some of it down and a little bit like that. And I'm going to brighten it up a little bit, but adding some contrast to it. There. I'll bump the shadows up, bring the blacks down. And then also just take the highlights down a little bit. A little bit more on the highlights. Show you what the before. So it's a game room. I guess it's okay that it's, you know, a little warmer. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I tried the white balance off the top mold and it wasn't catching it. There's a lot of like color cast here. So it was just making it too cool, but I'm okay with this color right here. I mean, I could take the highlights down way more. I probably will take the highlights down a little bit more, but I don't want to make it too much. Probably like, see how that looks. See, I've got so many effects going now. It's probably really jarring up. Let's see how it looks coming here. That's actually pretty good. I mean, I'm okay with that. Way better than before. Now on to the bathroom. This will be an easy one. This was one of the ones that had really bad incandescent bulbs. But luckily for this, there we go. And I'll probably just add a little bit of warmth to it, just because sometimes if you go too cool, I don't know, bathrooms are funny. Like certain bathrooms, if you go too cool, it doesn't look natural. So I'll go ahead and add a little bit there. Pull the highlights back a little bit more. And I'm going to call that one done. This bedroom, I think this bedroom's white balance is dead nuts. I don't think we should have to do anything to this other than a little bit of contrast. Maybe bump the exposure just a little bit because the window's already blown out. Bring the highlights down a little bit. I'll just bring that down a little more. Shadows up a little bit and the blacks down. That's about all I'll do there. Now this clip here, I would probably adjust the exposure a little bit on this one. Just because it's facing the other way. There we go. That is pretty good. And then I'd add some warp stabilization to this clip right here. Because coming up over the bed, I know I jostled it around a little bit. Yeah, piss yellow kills me, man. Every single time. I did a house, so bad one time. It was, I just so totally screwed the white balance on it. It was bad. All right, so let's see. All right, so that looks good. Now we're going to get into some of the outside clips, which going to be a little trickier to do. But let's go ahead and all right, color. Now I'm going to go back and put my input LUT in. Now, if you notice, I'm only using my input LUT on the exteriors of this house. And I'm doing that intentionally just because what happens is if you're not overexposing, this Lehman LUT will basically essentially lower your exposure. So definitely don't want to do this. Now, this clip got really, really dark. So I'll have to overexpose, also bring up the shadows quite a bit. And I'm going to bring up the black levels. Probably not too much on the black. Bring the contrast up. And a little bit like that. So probably right there would introduce quite a bit of noise. There's definitely a lot more noise in this clip now because I had to do all that. So now what I'm going to do is to fix this clip, I'm going to go to my effects tab. This plugin is probably my favorite plugin in the world, Neat Video. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to grab here. And that'll just sort of clean up some of that noise. Yeah, Neat Video is really good. I don't use it all the time. I just use it. When I used to shoot in S-Log, I would find myself using Neat Video all the time, and then trying to render out Neat Video with 4K is maddening. It's the worst. It's terrible. Can't say enough bad things about Neat Video and trying to do that. It's just you'll drive yourself mad. All right, let's jump back into there. Now these clips are going to take probably a couple minutes for it to render out. I've just applied a lot of color correction and a lot of changes to this. So what would base apps be without plugins? Yeah, exactly. It'd just be great if Premiere Pro had a built-in noise reduction software, because Neat Video is great, but every time they make an update to Neat Video, you have to pay for that update. It's like $50, and you already spent $100, and you can only use it on one computer. It's terrible. Magic Bullet makes a plugin. I think it's like noise reduction. I forgot what it's called, but they make one. It's more expensive, but you at least get two pieces for it. So like when I'm traveling, I don't have noise reduction. I have to wait till I get home or log into my computer remotely, transfer files, clean the files, bring them back. So when I'm traveling, I can get it done. So it's a pain in the neck. So we'll wait for this to come through. All right, sweet. So that's all done. It's trying to go back to this front. So everything is looking much better than it did before. All right, so there's that exterior clip. I mean, it's still not the brightest clip, but I think we struck a good balance of exposing the exterior to the... All right, so this one here, this will come out good. Same thing. I need to just program these into Premiere Pro, but I don't. All right, so that's looking good. Bring up the exposure just a little bit. I'm going to boost the highlights. Contrast 25. Drop the shadows just a little bit. I think that looks pretty good right there. Maybe warm it up a little bit. I think that's pretty much what I would leave it as. Could add a little more saturation if I wanted to, like just to give it a little bit more vibrancy, but I don't know. I'll wait to do that. Next thing to do, make sure I nest this sequence and then add that warp stabilizer. Yeah, I mean, I could do that. I mean, I've done that before, and I've done like a Ken Burns effect where I position it like where I move it side to side, so it sort of looks like that. I've done that on a house. I'm just, I don't know, not really a fan of doing that if I don't have to, because sometimes depending on the clip, you can tell when somebody threw a photo in there. Like you can always tell when somebody's done that. So that's the only reason why I don't personally do that. Yeah, let that go through, stabilize, see what this looks like now. This was shot in just standard. So that was pretty straightforward. I could just add a little contrast to this clip, actually. That was the Mavic 2 Pro. And for that, I'll just, I don't know, 20. I wouldn't add a lot. This is sort of already contrasty. And then for these two, sort of how they are, gonna have to add like a cross dissolve to that. I don't know if it'll let me add it in there though. Trying to figure this one out. I could keyframe this, overlap these two. do like a mask, I think. But that's a lot of work. And both of these need a little bit of stabilization. So I just shot myself in the foot on that. All right, so there we go. Thinking 3 on that clip, and this one had a little bit of bobble to it. So I am thinking 5 for the bobble. That about wraps that. All right, so color on this. Again, same thing, going back to color, going back into input LUT, and going to add that Leman LUT Pro back to here. So again, the only thing I have to really do is adjust the image just a little bit. Not so much. Contrast. Shadows. I want to add some warmness to this, the whole clip though. That's driving me nuts that I can't see that. What's going on, man? How's it going, Herman? All right. So, yeah, I think that looks good. Let's come back over. I need to figure a way to smooth that out without taking too much time to do it. All right, so let's do this. I'm just going to drag this adjustment layer up there. I'm going to drag another adjustment layer. Like something like that, I think. And let's do cross dissolve. Let's see if that lets me do it. I don't know if it's going to give me the effect I want. No, it didn't. It's because I nested that sequence. Crap. Those may not work the way I wanted them to work. I don't like that. All right. That just didn't work the way I wanted it to. I'm not liking that bobble. All right, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to keep it simple. Do something like that. Let me see what this looks like now. That's that again. Warp. I'll just add 5 to that. See if that can help. Just not digging that clip. I got another clip that I may inject in there instead, because I don't think the backyard's wildly important. Let's see how that looks now. Where does that wobble start? It starts about there. All right. All right. I know what I'm going to do. All right. There it is. I think I'm going to put this angle in here. Yeah, that's better. It's better. So let's pull that exposure down. A little more warmth to that. All right, let's nest that. All right. See how that works out. Then I just got to figure out what I'm going to do for the closing shot. Sort of screw that up because of the FedEx driver. Okay, now we're on to this closing shot. I screwed this up. But we can fix that. All right, so there's this one here. Just want to catch it before it does that weird. All right, that's what we're going to do. Taking this one out. Drag this in. Because I shot that in 60 frames per second, we're going to slow that down to 60%. Done. And that is quite literally where I'll end that one. Now it's all about details. So every house, do the same thing with these exterior shots. I'm going to have to do a little bit of color matching here to get the blues right. But so we'll start here. Oh, whoa. What's going on there? So maybe I'll just do 1% on that. Maybe I didn't need warp stabilization on that clip. Yeah, that was probably okay. Okay, so let's go back to here. So we need a preset to make this entrance work. So go to graphics. Bam. All right, so we got our real estate preset. I always use Oswald. All right. Put a address in here just to sort of get it going. Let's see. What was the... All right. Okay. All right, something like that. All right, so do something like this. Problem is that white is going to screw me up. I could change that color though to something else. Let me see what it looks like though. Okay, so that one won't work there, but it will work here. All right, so we just gotta sort of speed it up a little bit. Scale that up a little more. All right, let's see what this looks like. All right, perfect. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So I'm going to scoot this up here just a little bit. Also going to add another adjustment layer. This adjustment layer is going to handle sharpening. So pull that. And when I do any sort of sharpening, what I'll do is I'll make sure that it's always above the color grade, or I should say, yeah, I'm going to make sure it's above the color or below the color grade. I'm going to move that here in just a second. Let me scoot this timeline up so I can see what the heck I'm doing. All right, so there we go. There we go. So now with this color, this adjustment layer, I'm going to go ahead and add sharpening in. And where's my effects? This one's gonna really break everything. Sharpen. So I'll add some sharpening, and I'm probably just gonna add like 20. Nothing crazy. And let that render out. Yeah, I did. It took me a little while to figure out like sort of a workflow that worked best for me. But when you're doing like these houses like these are, I don't know, this house probably is, if I had to guess, maybe 280, 300,000, maybe 310, just because of the area it's in. But when you're doing so many of these houses, you have to be fast with them, because like this listing goes live tomorrow. They need their photos, they need their video, they want everything to go on to the MLS in one swift motion. So you got to be really fast with this stuff. And sometimes you can't really sweat all the little details, because some of the things that I notice, nobody else will ever notice. So I'm trying to learn not to really sweat those as much. Do I outsource photo editing? I have in the past. It just depends on how much is going on. Most of the time, you don't want to pay somebody, you're not making a lot on photos. So if you outsource, you're now losing a lot of money. So I just don't recommend it. I recommend watching Rich Baum or even Nathan Cool, because once you get a workflow for photos, it's just like this. You can go through it pretty quickly. But I also don't shoot like multiple houses per day. That's like my rule of thumb. And some people say don't do that. Some people shoot like a lot of houses a day. I try to only shoot one listing a day. That's my rule. So that way I have enough time to space everything out and I don't have to send all my stuff to somebody else to deal with, because then I can't control any of those elements. So yeah, three a day is still a lot. Like I'm doing one a day because that's because I'm doing video and photo. But I think if I was just doing photos, I would do more. I like doing just photos. Photos are easy. Like, it's not as critical as this. I think Adobe Premiere does have quite a monopoly. Hey, Brad, what's going on, man? Thanks for watching the podcast, man. I really do appreciate that. We're trying to get back at it. We're going to make a valiant attempt. I wish all the white balance was as good as this front bedroom. Man, this front bedroom's white balance came out good. What does something like this pay? It depends on the agent. Like this agent, she gives me a lot of business. So she's paying for a video like this, probably like $350-ish. So, and then you tack on photos. So you're just about $500 a shoot most of the time for photos and video. And shooting the actual video, this video, didn't take very long. And you've seen, I've just started the edit the same time I started going on. How long are my videos? Typically about no more than 2 minutes for a house like this. This house is going to be under 2 minutes, which is perfect. Because think about real estate videos in terms of how you guys watch your YouTube videos. When you watch a YouTube video, most people drop off about that 4.5 minute mark. If it's not an interesting video and it's not like constant information, you're not going to watch it, right? So the same thing goes for a home buyer. If we don't show them all the essential things, they're probably going to drop off. So I usually try to wait to show certain things, like the pool area. You want to leave sort of towards the end, but you want to show them enough to draw them in. So like the master bedrooms are typically the first thing I show, because for a home buyer, that's the most interesting thing to them, is that master bedroom and the kitchen. So kitchen and master bedroom, I always try to showcase those first. So you don't sell it to your first time. You don't sell it to the first time you want to work for an agent. Sometimes, now, if it's a new agent, all right, if it's your first time doing this, I would say do it for free. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Astra. Do it for free. And then what's going to happen is, if you do a great job for that agent, chances are they're going to love it anyways, because it's a free gig, right? They're going to love it. They're not going to find a lot to complain about. But if you do it for free the first time, they love it and they start using you more. Other agents will see their work because they all talk to one another, and you'll get a portfolio, and then you're going to get more people using your work. That's what happened to me. I had one agent, and it's matter of fact, this was the very first agent. Matter of fact, 1 year ago from today, I did my very first real estate shoot for these people right here. And it was terrible. It was terrible, horrible. I thought it was horrible, but they loved it. And, it's one of those things that's like, you trial by fire, I guess. What setup do I use inside these homes? I'm using the Sony a6400 on a Ronin SE gimbal. I use two different lenses. I use a Laowa 12 millimeter. I'm sorry, a Laowa 9 millimeter lens, and then I use a 12 millimeter Rokinon F2 lens. It's a Rokinon or a Samyang lens, same thing. There's no licensing needed if you are not using drones. If you use a drone, you need to have a 107. Frame rate I'm shooting in these houses is 60 frames per second. And then in the timeline, so in the linear timeline that I'm working with right now, is 23.97. So it's a 24 frame timeline is what I'm editing in. And that just slows down the 60 frames per second footage and sort of gives it more of a dreamy look. Yeah, some real estate agencies will require insurance. That's right. And that's easy enough to get. So right now I'm just sort of watching it back, just thinking about anything that I may change from these clips. I also don't like to do a lot of like crazy transitions on houses, just because I think it sort of takes away from the actual home. So that sort of came in an abrupt stop. I may do something like that and just fade it, dip to black, something like that, so it's not so abrupt. Oh, I need to make that dip a little faster. I saw that little cut. So, and then what I would do at the end of this is I usually edit 2 videos. I do 2 exports for an agent. I do one that we call a branded export, and then I do an export that is MLS compliant. So with MLS, you can't have an agent in the video. You can't have anything that promotes directly towards the agent. And that's certain MLSs. They'll get fined for that. So what they do is they use 2 edits. They do one that goes out on Facebook and all their social media. And then they have another one that will go to the MLS. Yep, no signs in the yard. So you want to try to make sure that you're scheduling these appointments before signs hit the yards. And what you want to do is you want to tell the agent, hey, if there's a sign in the yard, you are going to get fined. And depending on the MLS, it can range anywhere from $200 all the way up to $1,000 for the fine. So, I try to stress that to them because, when I first started, I didn't know these things. And, I had an agent get fined. She didn't hold me liable for it because, it's up to them to know, but you just don't want to put yourself in that position. You know what I mean? So I may warm up these outside shots. Yeah, take them out of the ground for sure. I've done that a few times. I may warm up some of these outside shots. So another thing sometimes I'll tend to do is I will find the specs on a home. For instance, this house. So let me just pull up the address again. Let me pull this address up. Let's see. So I'm gonna pull this up on Zillow because I need like specs on the size of the house, like all that good stuff. Charles Drive. Hopefully these are still accurate. I think they are though. All right, so here's this one here. So yeah, so I was pretty close on that. That's 314,000 is what they're projecting this to list for. So I was pretty close actually. So, all right. So now what I'll do is I'll come through here and just try to find like a point where I feel like maybe in this area here, this would work. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll take graphics. I have a graphic I've been using in homes, and it's my real estate titles pack here. Yeah. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll edit this and forgot which one I turned on. Crap. I got to figure out which one I turned on here. Oh, there it is right there. It's that one. So I'll turn that one off. Let me look. Which one? There's one that has like, oh, it's right here. This one. Sort of like this one. I need to make a preset for this one, but what we'll do is we'll grab the position of this and I'll drag it. Something like that. There we go. I'm not in love with the color because that doesn't match any of their colors. But let's do shape color because they use like a teal for their their color scheme. This is sort of a pain in the butt that you got to change all these, but it's totally worth it when it's all done. I'm sorry, I'm trying to just get caught up on the row views here. All right, so that looks good. That looks good. That's good there. Am I literally repeating insanity here? Yeah, I am. I'm an idiot. It's like, why is it not changing? All right, so that's good. Yeah, Adobe Premiere Pro. All right, so let's grab this color. I want this font color here. It's not quite white, it's sort of like that off-white. And we'll just paste it in here. All right, so now the idea of this particular one that I'm doing is, let's go. Where is it? Come on. I think I turned it down here. Where the hell did it go? I lost track of where I was. It's typical. Let me find it. I gotta find where it says flat for sale. God bless Premiere Pro. Ah, here it is. So I'm just gonna clean out all this crap here. That was the wrong flat for sale. Ah, it's this one here. All right. So I clean out all that. Now I'll fill in with all the fun stuff. So we will do something like this. How many baths was that? That was, I think, 3 baths. All right, actually, what I want to do is put the square footage there first. So that's going to be nice and bold. There we go. Better. So we'll do 3 beds, 3 baths. Let's find out some more information on this house. All right, that looks good, but I think how many car garage is that? That's another thing too. People are really like up about. Doesn't really say. Huh. All right, well, I'll leave that out. All right, so let's play this back. All right, so let's hit on that. There we go. Let that render out. All right, let me get caught up on these these chats here. Yeah, FCP is pretty good. I've edited a couple of videos in FCP. How do I manage storage? I have two 2 terabyte drives on this computer. The main hard drive is basically a 500 gig M.2 SSD. That's where I do all my edits from. And then I have a server that I built that I just basically push all the files to afterwards so I can hold them. I only hold files for 90 days. I make that very clear that I'm only going to keep your files for 90 days. It's your responsibility to download your files after I'm done, because with Dropbox, that's how I send my files to my clients. As soon as those 90 days are up, I'm taking those files down. So let's looks pretty good. I'm not using a polarizing filter on the interior only because sometimes I've noticed that there's some pretty bad color cast on that. For photos, though, I'll use a polarizing filter depending on the countertops. If the countertops are granite, yeah, I'm using a polarizing filter because I get that bad glare. I'm not using any proxies, Matt. This PC is pretty much fast enough for most footage that I shouldn't need any sort of proxies. There's definitely a lot of maroon in that living room. That's definitely noticeable, but it's sort of not bad though. Sort of matches the warmness. No, I don't use proxies though. I'm using the Ronin SC gimbal. Ronin SC. 1080p, 60 frames per second. I do want to warm up these clips out here though. I mean, you can build a really reasonable computer. The reason why I use Final Cut Pro is because at the end of the year, it's a write-off. So if I spend, whatever it costs a month, $300 a year on it, end of the year, I just write it off as, it's a business expense. So that's the reason why I use Premiere Pro. And plus 2 for YouTube, you just say it's an expense at the end of the year. Call it a day. I sort of feel like I want to add just a little bit of a layer of additional saturation to this just to make it pop. Just like maybe like 0.5. Nothing crazy. Just to make it a little bit more, and maybe not even on the DJI footage, because I feel like the DJI footage is like really like good as it is. Maybe go 10. I don't know. I never like to saturate it, but real estate agents I like that. Let's see how that is out here. Oh yeah, I think I got to do it. I think that looks better. Just adds like a little bit more vibrance, because I'm going to lose some of that pop when we export it. All right. That's pretty good. Thanks, Paul. And you know what I'll do too is, I forgot to do this earlier, but I usually take that down to -10. Otherwise, it's just too loud. Like that's much more manageable now. And especially if it's like playing on Facebook or something, you just don't want that like blaring. What was that? Oh, you know what? I never nested that sequence. Where's my nest? That's why you watch things back multiple times. So that way you can catch those little goofy things like that. And again, this is just, you know, a super simple edit. Like I said, I don't use any sort of transitions really. And I go very light on speed ramps too. And that's all sort of done intentionally. Just because the house should be doing the selling for you. You shouldn't have to do a crazy edit to make a house sell. That's my thing. So nesting, so what nesting allows you to do, it makes a subsequence. So let's say you're adding multiple effects on top of an effect. Every time you nest, you build like a layer in between that effect. So if you break a clip with an effect, you now have a sequence. It's like making a copy of a sequence. Does that make sense? But they run like in conjunction. So that's the reason why you nest. Plus two, Premiere Pro won't let you add warp stabilization to anything that you have an effect to. Sort of goofy, but I mean, I understand, but it works. What's going on, Peter James? Whoa, thanks 400. Man, you didn't have to do this. All right, so now we're coming towards the end of the clip, dip, and then what I'll do is we'll fade out that music because again, I cut the soundtrack out, so we use exponential fade to really let this track drag out. Like I said, I do 2 different edits for agents. I do an edit that's branded, and then I do an edit that's not branded. So this is the non-branded version. So and it just sort of fades out, and that's like, for me, that's like perfect as is. And I think the colors in the house and everything are sort of popping enough. I mean, it's not like 100% like the best of the best, but I think it's enough to, yeah. So exactly, Preston. So MLS laws say you cannot have any sort of, you can't self-promote, because when you think about MLS is put in these listings out to all different other sites, and they basically don't want you to self-promote. Anything that would drive a potential buyer to call an agent directly, I guess. I don't know. Not an agent. I just know enough about it from talking with them to understand like why, but some MLS are just totally okay with it. I've seen some videos that I'm like, wow, how'd they get away with this? But it is what it is, I guess, in that regards. So that's rendering out now. And then what I'll do is once that's done rendering is I will get what I'll do is I'll find a video that I've done previously, and I'll pull that in and grab the ending. I made like an ending for like this specific client. I made an ending for them that's like branded. And that's really the only thing that makes this a branded video is the way I do the ending. Whoa, thank you, Joshua. Thanks. I really appreciate that, man. You're fine, man. That's how we learn. You know, we learn based upon asking questions. And, you know, I didn't really have any good resources when I first got into this. I watched Parker's videos. I watched tons of videos from people, and they weren't very clear. And the problem was too, every house that I saw, they were shooting these houses that were like $1 million homes. And when you first start, you're not going to get $1 million home. So a lot of what they're showing you really isn't applicable. These are the houses that you're most commonly going to see. And, you know, Josh Yao's video, Make Art Now, he has a great real estate video. I highly advise, you know, watching that video. That's another great video. But again, example wise, you're seeing $1 million home, and that's not the type of houses that you're going to start with. It's cool to see that, but it's not reality, not in the suburbs anyways. So this is almost done rendering, and then we can export this one out. Because I think, you know, from a stability standpoint, this is good. I do want to just verify the spelling on that though, because that would suck if I closed the project out and the spelling of that address was wrong. I would be pissed. So there is 2 L's. And the agent sent me it, and it only had, oh, it's got 2 L's. I'm an idiot. That's why we check spelling. I am using, right now I'm using StreamYards. I don't even know what the quality is like with it. I've been using StreamYards periodically. God, I'm blind as a bat. I can't see. So if the quality is off, that's because I'm using StreamYard. But it seemingly works pretty good, though. So 750 Chalice Drive. Is that Drive? Let me just check Zillow. Yeah, it is Drive. Florida. Okay, so that's good. Didn't screw up anything there. All right, that's good. Take it easy, Brad. Yeah, so the output is 720p. It's I don't know why they don't let. Maybe they let you stream in 1080. I could have used Zoom, but I don't feel like Zoom's interface is quite as decent as what I'm getting out of this. Couple little stutters there, but I think I'll go ahead and edit. Go ahead and push that one out. So I will just save it to the desktop. And now I'm just going to go through, make sure I didn't have that video marked for. So because I'm doing 1080p, I use 25 on the bitrate. And let's cue that out. How do I deliver the videos? I deliver with Dropbox. I send them a Dropbox link because Dropbox is so easy and most agents know how to navigate Dropbox. That's the only reason why I like to use that versus like Google Drive's really complicated to figure out. I can send somebody a link to Dropbox and they'll be able to pull, whether they have an account or not. That's it. I don't have a problem hosting the videos for them. I will host them on YouTube, and then you just have to, you just have to basically give them the XML, like the embedding for it. There's a specific way. There's also a website that does hosting that doesn't have any branded. You can also use Vimeo that a lot of people use to host it. But there's a website, God, I can't remember the name. But anyways, you can upload it and they provide you an MLS link. That's the embedded link. I've been thinking about, making my own hosting for the videos and then just build it into the charge. Say, hey, I'll host it for you. This is what it's going to cost to host that video for X number of time. No, it's not Pixieset. It's another one. It's actually a drone website. That's how I found it. I can't even remember the name. If you do a Google search, it'll probably come up there. It's pretty popular. I don't use it because they only let you do 720 hosting, which that's garbage. Need at least 1080p. If I'm editing in 1080p, I want 1080p hosting at least. So right now this thing's exporting out, and then like I said, I'll do one more edit, but this edit's super quick, super easy. I'm just adding a splash screen at the end with some talking to tell whoever's looking at this video to contact the agents. Pretty simple. So, and this thing's almost done with this. And this was about a 2-minute clip, lots of effects, some graphics, and 25 megabits on the bit rate. And I'm doing it at a VBR 1-pass. That's also with cleaning some footage. So it's not taking too terribly long to wrap through this. So we've been streaming for now. An hour and 30 minutes is about what it's, and normally it wouldn't take me this long if I wasn't Streaming, it probably would be faster. It's just because I'm stopping and whatever, but normally an edit like this, I can bang them out in about an hour or so. Hey, no worries, Preston. Thanks for stopping in, man. Have a good Sunday. So now that it's getting closer towards the end of the video, it's just ripping through it. So there's that edit. That was edit number 1. And now the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and pull shoot in time to shoot that. Maybe 25 minutes. Video goes very fast. Like a house like this, it takes me 25 minutes if I'm not switching any sort of lenses faster. This was all done with the 12mm f2. If I'm switching up lenses, then it's going to take much longer to do the house. It just really depends. But most of these can go really quickly. No, not that one. I'm trying to find the video that I want to pull into this to make it work. So that was Deborah Road, branded. So I have another video. What I'm going to do is I am going to pull in. Where is it? Trying to find what I did with it. Ah, here it is. So there's a video I did a couple of weeks back. But anyways, the reason why I'm pulling this in is because I should make a preset for this, but the ending of this is what I need. I need this little bit right here. This is what makes it a branded video. It's just this little bit right here. So then I'll just pull that back just like so, and then I'll play this back. For more information, so we'll raise the volume on that so you can hear exactly what this is. So this is what makes it branded. For more information about this listing or others, please contact Christina or Jose today. So just a little bit like that is enough to qualify it for a branded video. So same thing. I just click Control M, and then what I'll do is I'll just call this to brand it, and then I send them both these videos. And I don't charge them anything additional to do 2 edits like this, because this is honestly super easy to do. Some people will charge for 2 edits or 2 exports. I don't, just because I'm not going to try to beat up my client like that, and it's what keeps them coming back. So now that I have that one going, we'll what's going on, Lon? Go ahead and wait till that opens up in Media Encoder. There it is. Yep. And then I'll let that exit. Bam. So that one's exporting right now in Media Encoder. So where's StreamYard? So we'll say, there we go. So now that that's doing its thing, we can go ahead and probably, let me see if I can play. Can I play that video? Let's see. What is this? How do I add a scene? I don't even know how to add a scene to this thing yet. There it is. All right. So let's see. How do I don't know. That's weird. It won't let me add the scene anymore. So weird. But anyways, yeah, I've been going on for an hour and 43 minutes. But if you want to check out the full resolution final edit of this particular house that I just shot and that we just edited, Apex Aerial, that's my secondary channel. That is where I will be putting this video up. It's Apex Aerial on YouTube. As a matter of fact, I'll drop a link, because that's where that video is going to go up here in probably 20 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and send that video over to the channel. So if you want to check that out, Apex Aerial Imaging is the channel where you can see the full resolution of that edit. Where is it? I don't even know why I can't find my own channel is not searchable. Gotta love it. Oh, well. Anyways, I'll put a link when I find it. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me and keep me company while we ran through this edit. But if you have any questions, just feel free to drop me a comment down below. I'll be sure to answer questions. I'm going to leave this stream up for a little bit longer. And if the response is positive enough, I will leave it up probably indefinitely. But anyways, guys, take it easy. Stay original.